education of every student in the district. In carrying out this responsibility, you will be asked to fulfill the roles of vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy. In providing vision, the board, with extensive participation of the community, envisions the community's educational future, and then formulates the goals, defines the outcomes, and sets a course for the public schools. To achieve the vision, the board establishes a structure and creates an environment designed to ensure all students the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. Because, as a board, we must be accountable to the community, we must ensure continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children. As board members, we serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community schools to advance the vision for our schools. Furthermore, we must strive to work together with the superintendent and staff to lead the district toward fulfilling the visions we have created, fostering excellence for every student in the area of academic skills and knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
So if we can have those three candidates come forward and sign your oath of office.
Laurel,
And then-
Ron, and Jeremy?
Yeah. And then we'll have you, here's Ron. There's Laura. Ron, and then we'll have you read what's in bold there together. Turn around, face the camera, and read this, and then Sonia will sign them and give them back to you.
Go ahead.
All right. I swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state, and that I will
discharge
faithfully the duties of the office of the school board member of Independent School District 2190 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you.
I'll get those back to you. You can frame them.
Thank you, and welcome to our new board member, Laurel. We will continue with tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll continue with roll call of board members.
Matt Zeppel, Ron Winter,
Amanda Lacey, Dawn Odegaard, Sonia Peterson,
Jeremy LeBlanc.
Laurel Christensen.
Or would you push it?
Laurel Christensen.
Thank you.
and now we need approval of tonight's agenda.
I move to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dawn.
second by Zempel.
Thank you, Matt. And Mr. Schneider, will you be so kind of reading the YME mission statement?
I sure will. Our mission is to provide a caring environment of high expectations that prepares every student for a successful future and instills the value of learning.
All right, thank you. And now we're gonna continue with board organization for 2023, election of board officers for 2023. We'll start for board chair. Will someone like to nominate an individual for board chair?
I'll nominate Dawn Odegaard for board chair.
Thank you, Jeremy.
I'll second that nomination.
Matt, thank you. So,
Are there any other nominations?
Are there
Gotta
any-
Say it 3 times.
got it. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Dawn, congratulations. You are our 2023 board chair.
Thank you.
So,
Would you like me to take
Yes,
over?
please.
travel through this myself, but.
I'll bump you to bumper.
All right.
Stay put. Yeah.
Yes, you can start with number 2.
Okay, so we will now move to nominations for board vice chair. Are there any nominations for board vice chair?
I'll nominate Sonia Peterson.
There's a nomination for Sonia Peterson. Are there any other nominations for board chair, for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? And finally, any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, Sonia, welcome to being vice chair.
Thank you.
That moves us to board clerk, which will be an open position since I held it last year. Is there any nominations or interest in being board clerk? The board clerk position signs a lot of things for the school. Denise will reach out, or Mr. Snyder or Jeremy, that we need things signed for the most part. It's not very difficult.
I nominate Matt Semple.
We have a nomination for Matt Zempel for board clerk. Are there any other nominations for board clerk? Any other nominations for board clerk? Any other nominations? Hearing none, Matt, you were elected to board clerk. Congratulations. And the final board position we have is board treasurer. Are there any nominations for board treasurer?
I'm gonna get Jeremy LeBlanc.
There's a nomination for Jeremy LeBlanc. Is there any other motions, nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations for board treasurer? Hearing none, you are elected board treasurer. Thank you. All right, so that concludes our election of board officers. Should we move to committees, Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, so just a little catch up, really in our policies, we only have 3 that are required membership, and those are negotiations, finance, policy, and buildings and grounds. It does not change anybody's duties whatsoever. But those 3, we have 3 members each sitting on those committees. Past negotiation members were Jeremy. I think we tried to do a handoff, but it was in the middle of negotiations for Ron, and then Dawn and Sharon Rupp. So obviously, you know, Sharon Rupp cannot act in that capacity, although some of you probably wish she would. This is a very busy one, so any interest in negotiations committee?
I would like to stay on it. It's definitely one where we need to have some continuity for sure. It is a busy committee for sure.
I would agree to stay on it as well.
It would be really nice to have 3. Anyone else interested in negotiations?
So interested in Ron, or? Yeah, I would.
Okay, great, thank you. So
What?
that's.
We have
Jeremy.
3 there.
Yep.
Finance committee. This one meets at least quarterly. Obviously, you know, we would be remiss if we didn't realize where we are financially. You know, we're expending more expenses than revenue at this point. We'll see what the legislature does, but, so past members were Sonia, Sharon, and Matt.
I would be okay with staying on that one as well.
That's what I,
Guess I'd like to get back on that one if I could.
Laurel, if you have any committees you're interested in, feel free, jump on.
Jump right on in.
It's not as bad as it sounds, you know, especially since there's always some veteran status there, so.
And we meet, what did you say, quarterly?
Yeah, at least quarterly.
And the meetings are
This
about
one,
like 5:30 or so,
yep,
you know, so it's workable with work hours, so.
We try and keep all of our meetings to an hour, I hope not half the time, we're at an hour.
He's not talking about negotiations.
No.
Good point. There is,
Except for.
we have never ever had a half-hour negotiation, or an hour
Never.
negotiations meeting that I'm aware of. Policy committee is the next one. Past members were Jeremy, Sharon, and Matt.
I'll stay on that committee.
Okay.
I could probably jump on that if there isn't any interest. It's sometimes a nice one to start with.
Okay.
It's a good learning one.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
reading, but it really kind of lets you kind of delve into, the doings, I
Sure.
guess.
Okay, I'd be willing to join the policy committee.
Jeremy, you staying on, or not?
On the policy, I get off that.
Okay.
All right, buildings and grounds, we still have, these same three people here, depending upon their interests, Jeremy, Amanda, and Ron.
I'd like to stay on that one.
Okay. MVCC board, Amanda, Sharon, and then Ron. Would be nice at least if one of you two remain.
I'd like to stay.
Okay.
I'll stay on one too.
Okay, we need, in this one, we do need three, because we hold the majority of the membership.
Is that the one that meets right before this board meeting?
Correct.
Typically,
And what time are those meetings?
Either at 5 or 5:15 is usually, and we only find out usually a few days before.
But that's quarterly too, so it's not monthly.
Typically quarterly, but
Okay. I could do
It
that
kind of
one.
depends upon how urgent something
Yeah.
is, like last time it was, approval of a contract, so
Sure.
we needed to go quicker.
I would like to do that one.
Okay. Minnesota State High School League, this is a one-member represents us with, and you get a lot of communication from Minnesota State High School League. Okay. I will catch up with that.
I'd stay on there if I
I do have it. Okay.
Okay.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Mhm.
Ron will stay on that one. MSBA liaison, generally speaking, yes, the chair.
I would, yeah, I would say I'll sign up for that one.
Native American Parent Advisory Committee, currently it's Dawn. They meet monthly on Wednesdays at 4, I believe, right?
4 o'clock, usually hour and a half to 2 hours. It's usually the second Wednesday of the month, so like it's this week. I've been on it for a couple of years. I know Jeremy was on it a couple of years.
Almost a year, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if someone has an interest, it's a nice committee to, kind of network and interact with, those group of parents, and the liaisons, so I'm willing to step off that if someone else would like the experience, I'm willing to stay on it, whatever, I just wanted to throw that out there, so people.
One thing we could think about too is, there are times when work gets in the way for her, because it is a 4 o'clock start time.
Yeah.
What might be nice is to designate an alternate, because sometimes they kind of expect you to speak for the board, even though, again, it's only advisory. You don't have any legal obligation.
Yeah, that is true. There are times that it's hard for one person with a 4 o'clock start. Also, we'll ask you some questions, and not always do you know the answer, but I bring it back to, if he's not able to be there, or bring it back to the board, I guess.
That could be the designated alternate.
Okay? Thank you, Matt. Before I forget, let's talk about MRVAD.
I'm on that one right now, and I guess I would like to, step down from that one, if I could.
Yeah. I think what would be good too, is if we could establish again a primary and an alternate. Because they will have problems, they have to have a quorum
Yeah.
to have it, and so I think that's what happened in December. is
They canceled because of weather in
Oh,
December.
did they?
Yep, they did do that, it did reschedule, but yes. It was
So, we would be looking for a primary and an alternate.
Where is that? I
The
know I
meetings are-
filled in ones for, on Zoom for you.
Montevideo
Okay.
at the
That's the
Merved
Minnesota
location.
River Valley Education District, so I don't know if that's something. As an alternate?
The meetings are
Maybe as an
usually
alternate.
Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. So,
So Laurel said she would be an alternate, right?
I could definitely be the primary.
thank you,
Okay.
I appreciate that.
And again, don't be afraid to reach out to me, but Karen does a pretty good job. She knows where the superintendents stand. Usually there's one of us there too. In fact, there's supposed to always be one of us there, so. Technology committee, currently we have Jeremy, Amanda, and Matt, or previously.
I'd stay on that.
Okay, Matt? These start earlier in the day. These are 3:15 because we count upon our own staff.
I can't ever make it, so I'm willing to step off of it.
Okay?
What days of the week are those usually? Is there?
That's scheduled.
Is it quarterly, is it monthly?
Ideally, they should be quarterly.
So you've got, who's on it right now?
Matt,
I would
You
stay,
got it.
I'll stay on it,
okay?
unless there's, looks like everybody's lining up to be on it.
We do not have to have three. We just previously have had three. So, if there's interest, anyone else interested? No, that early start, I realize does impact.
Well, if it's quarterly, it's different. That could be amazing, I guess, if you need.
Okay. Usually we don't necessarily. We just really kind of want to get some input from you folks and your perspective in terms of parents and what they're seeing. COVID leadership team, we're supposed to meet twice a year, based upon what's required in ESSER 3, actually all of the American Rescue Plan documents and programs, requires us to have a COVID leadership team to discuss that. Previously, it was Sonia, Ron, and Matt.
I'll be on that.
I would too.
So would I. Unless someone else has.
Easy enough. Curriculum Advisory Council, newly formed, but it should be meeting quarterly. We do have one coming up January 23rd, I believe. We've only had one meeting, so you can't be burned out on this one yet.
No.
So, Jeremy, Don, and Matt.
I'll continue.
And I'll continue unless somebody else would really like to get an opportunity to do it. It's a meeting with staff and parents.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Well,
I actually think it's kind of a nice mesh, because we kind of want to finish the school year, so
Yeah.
not maybe have to backtrack. Just for your information too, meet and confer, we do use meet and confer, but usually I ask the board members for a maximum of 3. We can't have a quorum, a maximum of 3 as needed. We have to offer them to our employee groups, our union employees, 4 times per year. So, we haven't met a lot, so hopefully, knock on wood, that's an indication of things going smoothly. All right? I think we have them all covered, right, Denise? All right?
I hope I wrote them down because I don't remember.
Yeah.
I need a motion to approve all the committees, Rich.
Sure, that's a great idea.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's committees.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. It would be helpful if you sent out, if it's in the minutes or if you sent us out an email.
Yeah, we'll update that document.
Yeah, just because it's kind of juggled around this minute. Okay, that moves us to consent agenda, which we can do 9.1, approval of meeting minutes, 9.2, payment of claims, 9.3, approval of the finance report, and 9.4, approval of the enrollment report. You can do that as one motion, I believe, right?
Correct, yeah. It's a consent agenda, and for Laurel's sake, I don't remember, did they cover that in phase one?
I don't think so.
Okay, so what that means is they're basically, wouldn't say trivial, but things that can be passed as single motion, they're just basically procedure. If there's any question about it, it can be pulled out of there.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Motion by LeBlanc to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second by Zempel.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That will move us to reports, and it looks like we're gonna start with Mrs. Enzpret. And we have video or something. Or just to talk to us
No,
about
I
it.
think just to talk about it.
I think you just said the video, yeah.
Video, yeah, just,
Is that on?
Not yet.
I think it just picks you up, it doesn't really magnify.
Oh, yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, so the video projections class, it's, kind of keeps morphing and changing. We had a block schedule last spring, and that was, I will say, ideal, because it gives you more time to get to where we need to go and do the thing. We went to a 1 hour, first hour class, but it still worked out okay. But we worked with Leah Cook, who was a resident artist that we had in Granite Falls for 3 months. And she was working on a large project based on the river. And so we did a little questionnaire about the river with our students, and like how much time have you ever been down by the river? When's the last time you've been there? I thought they would all say, oh yeah, I was there yesterday, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know, last year sometime, or I walk by the bridge once in a while, but I don't really spend any time there. So then we kind of said, well, that's definitely an area that I'd like to pursue with them. And we had different teams. We had the drone team that went out and on location and did a lot of drone footage, several days worth. And then we had some that were more just the editing. We had somebody being the narrator. They had to really work together, and sometimes it was really easy flowing, and sometimes it could get kind of cumbersome because we couldn't do part C until we got part B done, or now we needed new footage because we changed the story slightly. And they were working with community members as well, so they were all telling the stories, and so getting all this approval to tell their stories and to make it into a video, getting permission like from Upper Sioux. There's so much that they didn't realize it goes into a production other than just like filming with your friends type of thing. So it was really a good experience for them to see all the extra things, like where is that permission slip, where is that form? I don't have that form, we can't put them in there, and it's my grandma, does it really matter? Well, yes, it does matter. You know, so that was really good for them, working on dates and deadlines. It took longer than we thought it originally would. We thought we were gonna start with just maybe a 5-minute video. It went to 20 minutes, and so that added more time onto our video, but it's like we had all these community stories and we didn't really want to stop them, and so, or just cut some of them out, so that's why it went longer. But yeah, it's a good program. We will be partnering with the Living at Home Verlockmers program for next semester, and we're going to be taking old footage, old film, and trying to make it into digital. And then when we do that, we also want to film them and then hear them talk about the stories that are on the film, and then make a new video based on both of those things. So ambitious, but I think it'll be quite exciting, and they can use photos, they can use slides, and so we're ordering some equipment. That's part of a LIFT grant that allows us to do that and bring in some experts that will be working with the students as well. We've worked really closely with Pioneer in the past and continue to work on that as a partnership. We've had one student that's continued for over a year now, has a job out there, and she really enjoys that, and other students have worked kind of as an internship there as well. So it's been a good mentoring program to see what possibilities there are for jobs in our own community in that field. We also, it's a little side note, but we also have an art show going on downtown right now with the painting class.
That runs through the month of January, and then we have another art show down there in March, and that will be painting, drawing, ceramics, junior high, high school, a little bit of everything. So, that'll be downtown, right across from the bakery, and they will have, more like a full-on reception and everything for that. But for this first one, it'll be just, go in and stop in and see their paintings in the front. It's kind of like a little emerging art gallery in there, so.
So you showed this video to our
Yeah.
student body, right?
Yep.
Where else have you?
In the community, we had a kind of a celebration for Leah Cook, and so, that was out at the Rock, and we showed it there. And so that was a really cross-section of community members, from, elders to, Upper Sioux community members, people end of November, I believe, so, and that, and then we've done some of the short viewings just in classes and that kind of thing as well, but yeah, it was a good project. It was, they learned a lot about just different things, aspects about the river, and they were surprised because they expected it to be so dirty, but because we've had no rain this fall, that actually the water clarity was actually pretty good. So they really were kind of shocked at that. So they found some little, interesting things they find along the river, and they learned about, there used to be a button factory where they used to make out of the shells, and they found lots of different stories that they didn't know anything about until, they did this video as well. And so it kind of took a little bit of their own history and kind of expand what they knew, which is a fun project, so.
Maybe you said how many students were involved?
I would say, what was it?
Were there more than just the class?
No, it's just that class that were involved in that. But like when Leah worked with the industrial A class, and so they made these wonder boxes that also were about the river. So there was probably another 15 or 20 kids in his class. And then there's these community projects that kids were involved with as well, but it wasn't necessarily on school time for those. So, yeah, it was probably, I'm sure there was probably 50 students involved overall in the whole project, but not in our video production project. We had some other students that participated that had their sister, their brother, or friends, in the video. So they had, because they each had to find somebody that they had to interview, and, think about their questions ahead of time and how they would use it, and using the mic equipment and testing it before, make sure it was, all charged and ready to go, so you didn't get there and, it's not working. So it was, yeah, it's working with students, and so there's lots of little things that happen. We had lost one drone, didn't lose it, but we found out that there's interference by the bridge, and it goes off course when it's by the bridge. And so it took a hard right, and survived the first right, but didn't survive the second right, and then it hit a tree. But they found it. They're really nice quality drones. We were able then to, and I had the students do it. We ordered the parts that were broken, and they fixed it, and it's working again. And so they learned, nope, it's not just throw it away and you're done. It's like, nope, you're gonna figure out what we need to do to get this up and running. And they went through that. They researched, find out where we could get the best deal and the parts and the whole works. So, but when you give students the opportunity to take charge on something like that, they can really surprise you. And I like to kind of channel and mentor them that I am not the expert when it comes to students and knowing digital media. Just plain and simple. I guarantee you that. They will outsmart me on everything. So I'm always going okay, I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna have to Google that. Do you know how? Oh yeah, well I think if you go this way, and I can have the same scenario, but they'll have 5 different ways to go about it. So it's always fascinating to see them. They can just really shine in some of those areas. So, but it's also good to know where it's appropriate, what's not, and a little guidance along the way. So, but yeah, so thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, then I believe we have the middle school, high school board report by Ms. Sanderson.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Alright, so a few things going on at the high school and middle school building. We have this Friday, January 13th, is the end of our quarter 2. Grades will then be due on January 18th. So we have our second semester starting up then, that on January 18th. And, been working with parents, students, and staff members to get schedules, updated or changed to get students prepared for this upcoming semester. We've been having department meetings, working through courses to offer for the next year, so that we can get that registration guide, completed for the 23-24 school year. Seems really strange to actually be talking about that, but that's what we're doing. And then we meet as a leadership team every month, and so we just had that recently. Our most recent discussion has been around developing a student recognition system to recognize more students throughout the school year. And then other discussions have been like uniform grading scale, e-learning procedures, stuff like that. And then upcoming, we have on January 24th, we have our STAR reading test. And then on January 26th, we have the STAR math test. And that's all I have for this month.
What grades are involved in that STAR testing, the reading and the math?
6 through 11.
I was wondering, with all the e-learning that happened, how it went for staff and students and.
I think it went pretty good. I think you're gonna have, some people in all camps, where, they wish they would have been in the building or things like that, or, a few tech issues or items like that. But, I know, I went through and joined a bunch of the different Zooms, and there's definitely a lot of classrooms that were, kind of carrying on as if they were in the building. Their presentation was up on the screen and plugging away and things like that. And I haven't gotten too many, other than a few of those tech-related issues, I haven't gotten too many negative feedback at this point.
Any other questions? Mrs. Anderson?
I've been going backfilling for Mrs. Coulter's position when she's on leave for taking care of those students in that class.
Well, she hasn't had to be gone too often, but usually, there's always someone in there to cover. I guess I'm not sure about details in terms of, how it's going for the students and things. I can.
She teaches math, so
Mhm.
kind of a hard subject to be missing your teacher in. So just wanted to see how it was
Mhm.
going, keeping grades updated, that kind of stuff.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for the updates.
Thank you.
All right, and Mrs. Hanson, for Burt Rainey.
Good evening. It's hard to follow last board meeting when the playground got approved. I'm pretty sure I didn't sleep that night, so that was like a great high, so thank you again for that. On my board report, just an e-learning overview. I did on 1C, there is that active link, just a reminder, that is our e-learning website that we've been using from the beginning. So just to give you a quick overview of what the elementary does. So the elementary is put into 2 parts. So like, for example, this is a kindergarten. We consider this like our e-learning document. So at the beginning of the year, families received a packet. There were 5 copies of this same document, different colors. And so of course at that time, we're like, oh, we might use 1 or 2. So if you're in kindergarten through grade 5, your e-learning consists of completing 1 activity per column and returning this, which then allows them to be counted as present for attendance. And then the second part is all teachers preschool through grade 5 actually do a 30-minute live Zoom in the morning and a 30-minute live Zoom in the afternoon. Those are not required Zooms. And so I did pull some stats as far as how many students show up. I know especially with I try and get in, I never get into all the Zooms, but I do try and get into quite a few. Sometimes my arrival is more of a disruption than a help.
Because of course, you know, the doorbell rings and all of a sudden it's, Mrs. Hanson's here, and I'm like, you know. So, but looking at kind of just stats, so like, for example, I pulled stats from January 3rd and January 4th. So preschool, we really tell parents that we provide the activities and we provide the Zooms. But I would say out of any of the grades, that's the grade that we really say, you know, if it doesn't work, that's okay. One of the Zooms ends up being potentially during nap time for some of our younger learners. But in preschool, on January 3rd, we had 11 students attend, and on January 4th, we had 15. So this would be out of all 3 classrooms. If you've ever seen a preschool Zoom, you can imagine what that is. You know, our preschool teachers do an amazing job, but then randomly, like a cat shows up in front of the monitor. Did you see my new cat? Or, you know, you see it all. So, kindergarten had 22 students on the 3rd and 24 on the 4th. First grade had 30 students on the 3rd and 37 on the 4th. Second grade had 36 on the 3rd and 27 on the 4th. Third grade had 19 and 20. Fourth grade had 40 and 43, which is a very high number. And fifth grade had 16 and 17. So that just kind of gives you an idea of Zooms. You know, one thing I've noticed is I think, especially for our younger kids, a lot of it's social. Like, they just want to see people. They want to see their friends, and they're so happy to just get on. And, you know, we learn through distance learning to give them time at the beginning to just, they have to be able to show their cat, or they have to be able to do this. You know, they just want to visit a little bit. And then typically they, you know, get busy. So, wanted to share that with you. Playground update, just one of the things that we're doing right now is just generating some excitement with our students. And so you probably remember each of the components of the playground. So we basically put those together in, they kind of look like a flashcard, and then we added a yellow star. And so we put them, every day we release a new piece of equipment, and then we hide those, which they're not really hidden, but that's what kids think, all over the school. And so they're always on the lookout for the new pieces of equipment. So like a student might see me in the hallway and say, Mrs. Hanson, I saw that red and black, you know, circular thing down the hallway. And so we tuck them in different parts, but just trying to generate some excitement. Once all of the pieces have been shared with the students, then I'm gonna actually go in and I will show them the full design on the smartboard so they can see it all together. So it's generating a lot of excitement. So just state assessment prep, MCAs will be coming up in both buildings for March, April, and May. Just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of info on what's happening behind the scenes now. So if a child is on a 504 or an IUP, special accommodations can be made, and then all of their materials have to be coded and then ordered, and then those are delivered by MDE, and then they're inventoried and stored securely. And so those are some of the things that Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Hinz and I are working through right now, making sure all of those things are done. Every year MDE requires a certain amount of training for each staff member that is involved in the testing. And it kind of depends on what your role is. So like, for example, for myself or for Mrs. Anderson, we have a lot more training that we have to attend. If you're a classroom teacher, your training would look a little bit different. It does tend to be the same videos every year. So it's been a couple years since they've changed. But you have to log in, you have to watch them, so it is a good reminder to everybody. So. And the last thing, which is not on my board report, but I did want to share because it actually just happened about 10 minutes before I got here tonight. Mallory Bentz, our new 4th grade teacher, her license came through late this afternoon. And so I just want to start out by really sincerely thanking Mrs. Jessen. So Mrs. Jessen retired in December, and she was willing to come back in January until Ms. Bentz's license was official. She has literally created just a very smooth transition. Mrs. Jessen responded to me with a list. These are all the things Ms. Bentz needs. And then every day she'd be back, can we check off this, can we check off that? She's really helped, I cannot thank her enough, you know, transitioning mid-year is a new thing. You typically don't see that very often, so I just really wanna thank her for being such an advocate, for Miss Vance and just making sure things were ready to go. I mean, she even helped her, they made a binder with passwords and all the logins and is helping with the grade book and a lot of extras, so a special thank you. So tomorrow will be Mrs. Jessen's last day at Burgundy. However, I will say she's already signing up to sub, so Friday I think is her first day back. We're really excited about that.
So no more training wheels for Mallory.
No, and she's doing a great job, so. One other thing I did mention, but I just read my note, back on the e-learning, I checked in, with our attendance. So right now we're working on the documents and attendance for elementary from December 22nd, e-learning, January 3rd and January 4th. We currently only have 18 students that have not turned in their papers. And so what we do, and we've done this for every e-learning day, is we then help them internally get those done. Social workers are on it right away. All support staff and whatnot help. So, you know, if Sonia comes in and she doesn't have any of them done, we work really hard with her during different times throughout the day to get those done. So, but 18, that's actually much lower than I had anticipated. So it's pretty impressive. So.
Especially with so many days.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. So, any questions?
Would you like me to read, supplies needed?
That would be
for
fantastic.
anyone that's listening?
Yes, thank you.
Microwavable macaroni and cheese or microwavable soup, winter mittens and gloves, spiral wide line notebooks, composition notebooks, Kleenex, and manual pencil sharpeners. So if anyone wants to donate, they can bring them to the Burt Radio.
And the pencil sharpeners are like the 99-cent ones, you know, the real cheap ones that the kids just keep in their desks.
Keep in their desk and
Yes.
just sharpen their own pencil.
Yes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you to Mrs. Jessen for helping with the smooth transition. All right, then that moves us to the district report, Mr. Schreier.
Okay, so MSBA Leadership Conference is this week. Normally we take off on Wednesday evening, so I'm assuming that's what we want to do again. For the 6 of us, 6 do not fit very well in a minivan. Is anybody?
I'll drive to myself.
Okay,
I would probably leave from Mallory and just drive straight to City.
okay, perfect. So that leaves you 3.
The four of us.
All right, so time do you want to leave?
Are you driving?
The minivan, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you usually leave like 4:35?
Why not the new car?
What?
Drive the new car.
The new car? I guess I could. That's less spacious than the minivan. Our new car is here.
Well, I think we should try it out.
Not licensed, so
Or the
did
big
my license
giant
come in?
van.
If Denise is telling us to take the new car, I think we should take the new car.
What?
It's got a 90-day permit, it should be good.
It's only 21 days.
Is it 21 days?
And beans we bought it on the 12th. It expired the day we received it. I don't think so.
What time are you going to leave?
So we do have parent advisory council meeting there, and I'd like to at least stay till 5. So the earliest really I would feel comfortable with is 5:30 or 6.
I would say too, it'd be nice to go to the first part of it, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already told them that I was leaving at 5. So.
Yep, yep.
So leave in the parking lot, meet in the parking lot like at 5:30? Is that what
Sure.
you're thinking?
That sounds fine.
We have a meeting at Monty until 4:30, so.
And then we'll do something sort of, you'll check in until, because you might check in at a different time than us. So we're at the morning,
The Millennium?
same ones last year.
Sounds good.
All right. Clarkfield City Council, I got contacted by Paul Ansbach to attend a city council meeting over there to talk a little bit about the pool and explain the pool. I would love to have some backup with me. At
Which
least
time
one
is it
person.
at?
It's at 7 p.m. on January 17th.
Anyone have an interest in going?
hoping it's more of a question and answers, so they understand. I think what Paul is saying is that there's misunderstanding about how it's funded, that they get to set the amount, whereas we actually set the levy on it, because they don't have that authority.
I could make it that easy.
Thank you, Matt.
I got a lot of nights away home, away from home that week, so. it's
And that's Tuesday,
Past
isn't it?
It's a
It's
Tuesday.
Tuesday, so Matt, can you go with you, it sounds like?
Okay. All right, we'll touch base that week. Videography class went through that, board member pictures did that. MRV CTE Collaborative, we did receive word that Montevideo would be withdrawing from participating with those joint classes with us. And so we'll still continue with the number of schools we have there, that being Lakeview, RCW, McRae, and us. Here's kind of a little bit of an idea of some of the classes that we offer. Many of them are in conjunction with Midwest. So CNA, Intro to Health, welding principles, carpentry. We do offer some, I forget what the credits are called, certification, where they can get some credit for some of that, and then industrial construction methods. CDL, I know there's a lot of questions about CDL. We did do the classroom portion of that. Unfortunately, PIC looked for funding to cover the driving portion of that, excuse me. And that didn't happen, so our kiddos did complete the driving portion of that. I don't remember how many kiddos did that.
They did that on their own?
No, we offered that as a class last spring. So, you know, if nothing else, it's a good introduction. But to be quite honest with you, paying for the driving portion of it is quite expensive. So I've been pretty vocal that, especially with Bruce's and Vic, that's the intent. They're supposed to connect. Well, they want a kid to commit to, say, Old Dominion. I don't know if that's a good example, but that's an example I can think of. Before they'll pay for the driving. And I'm of the mindset, give us some money, we'll produce enough drivers that'll get you started. So, we really need the seed money instead of identifying just the kiddo that they're gonna invest in. It's hard, 17, 18-year-old kid to commit to that. So,
Yeah, cause it's like $4,000 for the driving part,
correct, at least,
at
yep.
least, minimum.
So, but at least we get them classroom portions, they can get through that part. Vacancies, so we'll start looking at, we have finance committee coming up, but we'll start looking at advertising for certified positions, especially those we know we will need based upon either retirement or were unable to be filled last year. As you can see up at the top in red there, we did fill the elementary teacher position. Gifted and talented coordinator, we still have not filled, and I'm anticipating we will not fill that position this year. We'll try and look at strategies to get that completed. Here in the next few items, we will talk about personnel, but we will need to fill a food service cashier position. We have advertised for that, and an outside maintenance person. Then on top of that, today I did meet with our chief of police, Brian Strufert, and congratulations to Mike Toole for being named Assistant Chief of Police, which will mean that eventually he will step down as our SRO. So they will start advertising internally for that position. So their intent, Granite Falls Police Department, Chief Stewart, and the city of Granite Falls, is to continue with that program. So, nice thing, it's not going anywhere. His knowledge will be tantamount to the success of the next person. But one thing to keep in mind, it was a transition from Mitch to Mike. It will be a transition from Mike to whoever that is. Things will be done differently because of different personalities. So, but we want to maintain that relationship. That's my intent. Okay? Offer mentoring for it, for that person, whoever it may be. That internal candidate was where they'll start. So Mike will offer that mentoring and then eventually some training for that. I encourage you to continue to watch the MSBA and MREA. MSBA, understand, is a little bit broader than what represents our district. MREA really represents our rural nature. So I'm not saying that MSBA leads us astray in terms of legislative action or support, but MREA really targets what we have. So here's some of the things they're talking about now that seem to be a high priority. Free meals, cost to the state would be about $400 million ongoing. So we know the negative impact of that, which I don't know how I feel about that, just like I told you last month. If we give them free meals, we don't get the applications in. And we know how much that can cost us. Student personal aid was talked about. That's I don't know exactly what they're referring to. I can only assume it's social workers, guidance counselors, and those types of positions. Fully funding special ed has been talked about as a big priority too. You know that costs us quite a bit each year also. So we would gain substantially by that. Prohibition on suspensions of students in grades kindergarten through 3. I don't know where that stands. They are talking right now, the governor and the Speaker of the House are talking about 5 and 5 on the formula. This is a funding year. 5 and 5 would get us a long ways. That would be new territory, 5%. And then linking inflation to the formula. So, all right. Any questions for me?
I'm talking cross subsidy.
That would be the special ed fund. Yep, and there is some, but they didn't delineate it out. Talking about EL is the other cross subsidy, which we don't get hit too bad with, but we still only generate 20,000, less than 20,000, and we expend about 30. And that's on a half-time position. That would help us. All right.
All right, any other questions? All right. Were there any celebrations or recognitions? I didn't see any on board book.
There were, but there's none in there.
No. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just thank all the staff for all their hard work during e-learning and jumping. And that includes administration. We had some tough weather days, and I believe school was still happening, and my student was still learning because I checked. So does anybody else have anything they would like to just say as a recognition?
Dawn, may I share?
I'll just say I can email or send it to you quick.
Sure.
She'll send it to you.
Okay. You wanna go ahead, Denise, or do you want me to? Just hum some Jeopardy music.
And we're saving calendar discussion for a big discussion item at the end. When the
Yeah.
people have turned off the soft button.
You're emailing it to me, you said?
Yep.
Spinning. Now it's refreshing. Spinning. Mrs. Hanson have it up? I'm connected, I'm sure.
Here you go. Just read this.
Sure. I could have let you read it. Okay, so thank you to Paula Panitsky for volunteering her time to clean the BRE winter gear area. Wow. Thank you for all your organizing, sorting, and cleaning. We appreciate you. Thank you to Trish Jessen for her years of service for the Wyoming School District and best wishes to her as she begins her retirement. A special thank you to Mrs. Jessen for supporting and assisting with the transition of a new teacher taking over her classroom. Her dedication to her students in Wyoming continues to be seen daily. Thank you to Mr. Schuler and all the BRE variety show performers for putting together their acts and for collecting, purchasing, and making costumes for the event. While the snow may have kept the show from happening, we look forward to our 2023 event. Thank you to Angie Jans, Amy Engesser, and the entire ECFE staff for providing exciting events for our ECFE children. Your creative talents and energy are appreciated. Thank you to our maintenance and grounds crew, Francis Stab, Todd Reiches, and Terry Paulson at Wyoming and BRE for all the extra efforts and hours of work spent removing snow from our sidewalks, parking lots, and surrounding areas. A special thank you to Francis Stab for making a half circle around the BRE playground to ensure we did not lose any students or staff in the large snow banks. Yes, quite a daunting couple of that week or whatever. So thank you, everyone. And Denise, I just got the email. Okay, so I think that ends our, unless we have some committee reports, I didn't see
You
it.
did not have any committee.
I don't think so, right?
All right.
Okay, so that moves us to new business. Personnel items would be leave requests and resignations. Should we take item 1 alone and then the other 2 together, or how do you want to do that?
Sure, you can do it. Yeah, if you, yep, that'd be fine.
Okay, so the first personnel item is a reduction in time for the middle school, high school attendance secretary, Diane Weber. I believe there was a letter and some information on board book. Is there a motion to approve that request?
Motion by LeBlanc to approve.
Is there a second?
Second by Zappa.
Clarification, so everything would be prorated based upon the hours worked.
And my understanding is we wouldn't lose the time because we have another staff member willing to step into that,
Right.
that day. So we would still have a secretary 5 days a week at the office.
How would emails work? I know a lot of parents will email Diane if their students are gonna be absent.
Yeah, we had a long discussion about how that would be, so we are going to give, that substitute, Jen, right? Jen Levitt's the, access to Diane. You know, and what's Diane been working here 2 years, and Crystal still gets a lot of attendance email. So,
No, that's a great question though, because people will do that.
Yep.
Would it make more sense to have just an email for attendance, so somebody could ask?
Yep,
Okay.
we're working that way, but even if we do declare that to be the case, it's gonna take 2 to 3 years for that to.
I know. Gotta start somewhere.
I always, just email Crystal. Or you can.
And you feel like this will be a smooth process at this point?
Yeah, she's helped out, a few different times, and it's gone well.
Okay. All right. Further questions or discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. That moves us to items 1.2 and 1.3, accepting the resignations of outside maintenance Todd Reiches and the food service cashier accountant Megan DeCam. Is there a motion to accept those resignations?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Amanda Lisi, a second.
Is there any discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. And there are no new hires. That moves us to any policy updates? Mr. Steiner?
None?
And then I believe that leads us to our discussion item, calendar discussion for this school year, 2022-2023.
So I did attach in there a document that kind of goes through a couple, or goes through and explains some things, so you folks understand the requirements. I know I have shared that appendix B with you in the past too, so you are aware, could be aware of what it is. Now, I put the very first thing, note, we currently have sufficient time and do not need to make up any days where we're sitting right now, all right? We, based upon that, based upon the requirements, I'm not going to get into that too far, except to remind everyone, by statute, we can use only 5 e-learning days. We can use more than that, but they don't count towards students' instructional time, all right? So options that they outline in that appendix B are to extend the school year through either partial days or full days. So after the, extending the calendar would be after the June 1st, June 2nd is really the option. Convert non-school days to school days. So that would include staff development days, which include the following dates: June 16th and 17th, or January 16th and 17th, February 17th, March 23rd, April 6th, and June 2nd. Convert those. If we do convert any of those, there are trainings and time in there that would need to be recouped in other spots. Other ways that they can convert non-school days to school days: vacation days. We have those 3 vacation days that would be eligible. No other days can be used, so February 20th, I believe it's called President's Day. That actually is not a holiday, a state holiday that we can't have instruction on. April 7th, which is commonly known as Good Friday, and April 10th. Those are the 3 vacation days in there. We can lengthen the school day. One thing to keep in mind there, that in statute, we have to provide 5 minutes of preparation time for every 25 minutes of instruction that occurs. So I have to do some calculating on that. So the middle school, high school calendar is really the one that is limiting our ability to have more snow days. So there are things that could possibly give us relief. One of those is the governor could step in. Example would be declare a state of emergency. We'll see. I really don't think that's going to happen. The MDE commissioner may know of some avenues or routes or tricks to allow us extra flexibility, or the legislature also could provide us that. So they could do that in a number of different ways, including increasing the number, allowing us more e-learning days that would count towards instruction, or decreasing the number of required contact hours. So a scenario I worked out that I thought could be feasible is to add 8 minutes to each day. So starting January 18th, I believe it would be, we could gain up to 82 days, or 76 days. So that would give us 10.1 hours, with which, if we combine that with the remaining hours, we gain about 2 days by using that method. Some of the problems with that is that would cut into practice time, prep time, time for meetings after school, etc. So that would extend the day to about 3:10, and would keep the day starting at 8:15. It would reduce the lunch for both students and staff by 1 minute. Pros, we obviously would give us more flexibility in not having to go into the second week of June. It does, no matter what we do, if we add that in there, it gives us more cushion. We don't know how many snow days we're gonna have, folks. There's no guarantees this will solve the problem. We could end up using both of those 2 days next week and unfortunately end up with 2 weeks following that, and then who knows what we would do. We could handle those 2 days that we would gain in two different ways. We could add e-learning days, which really isn't a big help for the students, because remember, they don't count towards student contact time, but they would count towards teacher contact time, because we have 184 days in the teacher contract. Or we could go back to using traditional snow days. Teachers would need to make up the days at a later time.
When, I just have a question regarding the 3 vacation days that we have in there. When do we, how much time do we have to give to parents? How much time do we have to allow parents? I mean, is there, if we decide on February 19th that there's school on February 20th, obviously that's probably not enough time. But is there a certain amount of time that we would have to give parents?
No, there really isn't. Kind of the reason we had shied away from it, if you remember 3-4 years ago, we had this discussion. Used to be on our calendar that the first day we would
Yep.
get back. But then it didn't allow our staff members to plan, because we are limiting the number of days they get for a personal leave.
So are you saying that you think that we should start a plan right now? Because.
The longer we wait, less minutes we build.
Like you wanna start that plan?
We could
at
start
time.
on either January 18th or January 23rd. It's gonna give us pretty close to the same amount.
Cause it's January 18th, the first day of the third quarter,
Mm-hmm.
is that correct?
The 23rd is the Monday, so it gives us about 2
So-
weeks from now to inform parents.
So school starts at 8:15 right now, and it would stay the same, and instead of school getting out at
3:04.
3:04,
6 minutes.
we're really extending it 6 minutes.
But I get 8 minutes.
Shaving it a minute off of
And if
lunch.
we do that.
A minute off of lunch and a minute to each period in the high school.
And by doing that through the end of the school year,
Yep.
it gives us 2 days for
Of
cushion.
flexibility.
Then you could choose to use it as e-learning days if you wanted for.
You could
instructional
choose to
time.
count on, to do e-learning days. So that's the other part. If we add the 8 minutes, we have to choose. Do we want the staff to do e-learning? Do we want traditional snow?
And if they don't do the e-learning, then the staff would have to make up the days
Correct.
and come into school
Yeah.
at a different.
Staff makes up the day,
They have to, yeah.
not the students.
Correct.
Yeah.
We go with the traditional.
And we've talked in the past about being hesitant to take away those vacations because people kind of plan vacations around that, but yeah, this is a little untypical of what we do.
Well, you've got teachers in their mental health for the planning those vacations off as well.
Another issue we've run into with those days is they'll plan a trip, and then like back in the day when we would take that day, then we don't have enough staff, because, you know, if they're flying somewhere or they have a family vacation, it's tough to say cancel.
Right.
I would rather look
That
at adding a
gets
day
tough.
to the year than canceling the vacation.
And currently, the last day of school is June 1st, or second, is it Thursday?
June 2nd, I believe, is a work day.
Yes.
So for
Students got
students,
it, so June 1st is.
But that's only if we go,
Student day.
if we go beyond these 2.
Yep, and
Days.
so that's
Right.
an easy one that we have traded in the past.
Mhm.
We have traded that Friday with student to gain 1 day.
Mhm.
So really, adding 8 minutes and June 2nd, in terms of students, gives us 3 days.
But we could wait on the June 2nd decision?
Correct. We would wait.
If we're gonna look at adding minutes, I'd lean towards making those 2 traditional snow days and letting the kids be kids.
We totally agree.
Let the teacher,
What's that?
let the teachers, you know, do that in there too.
Somebody's gotta bear the burden somewhere, but I really should.
Yeah, I think we kind of have 2 separate decisions. Then we can look at what's coming up. Gives us as an administrative team, I'm just playing out your scenario that you're proposing here, time to figure out what does something look like, and we have those 2 to 3 days. Okay.
I mean, I think it's a good idea to start the 8 minutes now, because
Mhm.
there's a good chance that we're gonna get at least 1, not 2 snow days by the end of
Right,
winter.
at least.
But even by adding that, that doesn't like take any time away from the teachers. I mean, you're saying they still have to make 2 full days up. Aren't they actually putting in a little bit of extra time now, but it will?
They are, but the contract is based upon days.
Not
184
This is
days.
hours for the state.
And we can make that decision at a later time. The one we really have to make is the 8 minutes.
Or make the kids feel better.
And
Just call it
the
6
snow
minutes.
day.
Yeah.
Call it
Call it
6
6,
minutes?
they won't,
What's that?
Call it 6 minutes, like,
Yeah, I think it's,
they won't.
for the kids.
6 minutes?
Sounds better.
They're only gonna know that they get out of school at 3:10 instead of 3:04.
So
That's their.
is there anything we can think of, I realize 6 minutes, but that it would have an implication on, I mean, the buses are just gonna run later, like, it's just parents and it's only 6 minutes. Is there anything that we're not thinking of?
Are
Can you
you,
two
are you
think of
more
anything?
comfortable with the 23rd or the 18th? Or are you, because that's the first thing I would do tomorrow, is staff will communicate.
We added minutes to the calendar a couple of years ago, or was it
Was it
last
2
year?
years ago that we did that?
And how
I
did
think it
that
was
work?
last year.
Do you remember? You wouldn't remember, Jenna, but do you remember this
To
one?
be quite honest with you, we left them on.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
Really?
I think.
Yeah, we never reduced it, because the
What I
superintendent's
recall
trying to
is
build a
it
cushion.
still kept
still
us
have a
before
cushion?
that 3 o'clock
No,
for the
I didn't.
elementary.
That's why I left them on.
So for staffing that are done at 3, it was an easy, you know, extending it this way would push us past that 3 o'clock. So that will be a little bit different. So I think ours did go a little bit unnoticed last time because it was an easy transition in.
So you think it?
Yeah, this will cost us a little bit for our hourly people, because some people finish right at 3. Because their day in the elementary ended at 3. So this is gonna push it over, which is the smallest increment. We might be able to use 7 minutes, we might be able to use 1/8.
I mean, do we need to extend the elementary or just in the middle school, high school?
Well, but they ride the same buses.
Same
Yeah.
bus. I suppose we have to.
Otherwise, it's a long time for them to sit on the bus.
Yeah,
Right,
poor
Yeah.
master.
Yeah.
that's a lot of
The
spending.
playground that
It
we
is,
missing.
yeah.
Lost in snow.
Hmm. It seems like barring anything else, it seems like just adding the minutes makes the most sense.
And the sooner we do it, I feel like the better.
Well, to me, it makes sense to start at the 18th. I mean, new semester,
Yep.
let's just get to it.
No, why wait till that following Monday?
Yeah. Plus it gives us an extra 24 minutes to work with.
so then what happens if May 1st, we haven't used it?
Tack it on to next year.
That's where I was going.
We just have extra instructional time we paid for.
Nothing.
Is
They're
that
gonna
wrong?
go through the process of shortening the schedule.
That's what we get for living in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't allow us to do an early release because we've already got our calendars set. Just throwing out something.
You
So
mean
you're
on the
saying
last
that
day
if-
of school?
Something,
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but if we,
In theory, it could.
just a.
But let's,
Yeah,
Let's not talk that,
By the last day of school, everybody's ready to be done anyway,
Let's just,
teachers and kids.
yeah.
if you don't mind.
Yeah. We're not gonna have no more snow.
And no matter what,
Yeah, right.
we're gonna get, it's gonna be challenged, or not challenged, question. Why didn't you try this?
Okay, so January 18th, we're extending the school day to end at 3:10.
I think that should be a motion, right? That's what I heard.
I think it should be a motion, I'm just making sure that I got that done. Is there a motion that anyone would like to make to adjust our school calendar?
I'll make a motion to extend our school days beginning the 18th of February to 3:10 p.m. Or January, sorry. Correction, January. Looking at the calendar. Thank you.
To end at what time did you say?
3:10 p.m.
Is there a second to that motion?
Somebody at least will second that.
And just for those listening and for clarity, the reason we are doing this is to avoid having to take away vacation days from students and extending the school year into June because of the weather issues. Correct, Mr. Snyder?
Correct. Now, if the governor steps
That was my
in,
question.
or anybody steps in, we'll re-examine.
We'll re-examine it. It won't be
Yep.
automatic, but we'll re-examine it.
Correct, we won't. We can't plan for every scenario.
Right,
We'll
as of now.
re-examine it in February. Or whenever.
Sounds good. Okay. Questions, further discussion?
Also, if we get more than 2 days, we might have to examine as well.
Absolutely.
Right, this is just giving us 2
This
days.
is buying us rooms we don't
Yeah.
have to control.
Right, good point, that we could have, let's pray not.
Don't jinx us now.
Yeah. All right, any further questions or comments? All right, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
So then let's, if you don't mind, let's also have a motion about e-learning versus traditional school days. Okay?
Okay, so for
Does
some,
that make sense?
Clarify
so
that?
can you clarify that, just so we're all on the same page?
Yep.
Can you clarify it, please?
So it'd be,
Oh, sure, I can. I'm sorry, I didn't know that was a question. I thought you were saying you were gonna clarify.
Nope, I would like you to clarify that.
Now I know why people laugh at me. So, what it would do is by you folks clarifying that the next 2 days will be traditional snow days, that means we will not be doing e-learning. So the motion could be, make a motion that the next 2 snow days, or until the board revisits it, it will be traditional snow days. Or,
E-learning, and we talked about, a couple board members said, let kids be kids, call them traditional snow days. If they're giving up the 6 minutes,
Correct.
right, that's what I heard, all right? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that the next 2 snow days are traditional snow days.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We did that really quickly, actually.
We did. We've done this before, a time or two maybe.
Okay. Any other agenda items? I don't think there's any correspondence. And then I'll just read through upcoming events. We have the MSBA conference, the school board conference, January 12th and 13th. Minneapolis, and I believe there are 6 of us going, correct? End of quarters, January 13th. No school for staff development on January 16 and 17. Curriculum Advisory Committee is set for January 23rd at 5:30 in the library again. Friday.
Correct.
Early dismissal for staff development, January 25th at 2 p.m. Finance committee meeting is scheduled for February 1st at 5:30. Early dismissal, February 8th at 2 o'clock. Policy committee meeting is scheduled for February 8th at 5:30. And our next board meeting is scheduled for February 13th at 6 o'clock in the boardroom. Anything else? If not,
You do not?
we don't.